In the last video, we wrote a script to clean up our occupational wage data and put it into this comma delimited file with cleaned up data. So we took out some extra spaces that were in the data, made sure the capitalization was uniform and in title form, so only the first letter of each word is capitalized. And so now we're ready to read this and do something with it. So as we look at this, we've got the occupational code, the title, so the job title, how many people were employed in that, and then the average wage for that job title. And so what I'm curious about is what is, at least out of this data set, what is the top paid job. So let's create another file, and we'll just call it file wage data. Okay. And so of course we'll start with opening the file, and so I'll just call it in file, and we'll set that equal to open, and we'll open that CSV file we created from the last program, and we're going to open that in read mode just because we want to read the contents. And then we'll read it in line by line. So for line in the in file, we will read in the line, and then replace the new line character at the end of the line with empty string. And then we'll use temp line so split will store this into a list for us so that we can deal with each element of that list. So each field will be in a different element of, as we read it in line by line, each field will be in a different element of this list. So the other issue we're going to have here, we could either delete this first line out of our data set, or we can put some code in to ignore any data. I think all the rest of the data pretty much has numeric values for the number of employees and the average wage. So as I'm going through this, I'm going to have to check to see, and I'm just going to say if temp line, and I'm going to look at the last column at 3, which would be the wage data, and I'm just going to check to see if it is numeric. In other words, if it's a number, I want to do something with it. Otherwise, I don't really want to look at it because it's probably going to be just a column title. I'm also going to need to keep track of what the highest one is. So let me create something called highest, and we're going to make that match our list. So we need the same elements of the list. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'll just use 0 as the code, comma, there's a job title, so we'll just call it job, and we'll put 0 as the number of employees and 0 as the salary. So I'm just trying to match the structure of when we do this split for the temp line we're going to get. Okay. And so if I do that, I'll be able to come down here and say if, and I'll have to convert this to numeric, so I can just, I don't think I have any decimal data over here, so I'm just going to use an integer of temp line, and again I want to use that wage data, so the last column, and if that is greater than the integer value of my highest value, I just want to replace that whole thing, right? So I'm going to say my highest list is now equal to the current line, right? And so if it's numeric and got a nested if, so essentially an and, if that salary for that line is higher than the highest so far, replace it. So by the end of this loop, I should have the highest occupation in there. Okay, and so let's go back, and we should be done there. So I'm just going to close my file. Okay, and then we can print the highest, and I'm just going to print the whole list. We can format this later and make it look a little bit better. So let's run this and see how we did. And so we get this list. We've got all the different values, and we've got the job title there. So let's format this a little bit. So we can say print, and let's use F-string formatting. So we'll want the job title. So we'll say the highest, okay, 1. So that's the second column, right? Because we start with 0. So highest, so that'll be the job title. We'll print a literal colon, and then we'll say, let's do float of the highest, and this time we'll use the wage, so that'll be 3. And then we need some formatting, so let's say, let's do 0 decimal places fixed. So that would be the salary, so let's run that. And we could probably use a little more formatting. We got the number, but let's go ahead and add a comma there. So we get add a comma between those points, and we'll go ahead and throw a $sign in front of it since we're talking about wages here. So that should make it look a little nicer. So let's run that. Okay, and so now we get Computer Information Systems Manager, and we get the $sign and the comma every 3 numbers there. So we can get rid of this. I'll just comment that out for a second. So we found the top wage, but let's say we wanted to find the average wage of at least our data set here. It'd be kind of an interesting thing because I don't just want to average all the salaries together, because let's say for this first one, the average salary is $147,050, but it's weighted, right? Because there's 22,010 people that have that salary, whereas others, this should be weighted more for marketing managers because there's over 300,000 of those. So we need to kind of multiply these together to kind of get the overall wage for the field. So let's create a couple of values up here. I'm just going to call it total workers, and we'll set that equal to 0. And then we'll do total wages equal to 0. And then same thing, I want to avoid the first line because it's not numeric. So in this part where it says if it is numeric, then I'm going to do our total workers. I'm going to add in the temp line, and that will be a 2. So the next to last column in there, and I need to make that numeric. Okay, and then I want to do something similar for total wages. So we'll add that in, and we'll actually just do the same, but this time we want to multiply it times the wages, right, for that particular job title. And so we'll multiply it times the last field. So those together would be the total wages for that particular occupation added into the total wages for the whole file here, right? So then after the loop, we can come down here and I can say something like average wage is going to be equal to total wages divided by total workers. Okay, and that's going to give me the overall average wage. So let me do something like print, and let's do another formatted string. We'll just say overall average, and we'll do something like $, and then since we have the variable already there, average wage, got that, comma, and let's put that out to 2 decimal places. Since we got division there, we'll probably get some fractions somewhere in there. And my quotes need to go all the way to the end. Okay, let's see what we have there. And so I get the one for Computer Information Systems Manager, and then our overall average for our data set here is a little over $60,000. And of course, instead of doing this with the open this way, I could have just as easily done it the way we did before. And we need to comment that out. We'll need to indent all of those. And I don't need this end file close anymore because the with will automatically close that. So essentially the same thing, but using the with notation would also work. So let's run that and make sure we didn't change anything. Yeah, it runs the same way. Probably a little bit better way to do it with the with. Okay, so now we can read data from the file and do a little bit of process.